I'll be speaking on spiritual skills. Spiritual skills. And we trust that the Lord will help us in Jesus' name. You see, because certain victories in life are spiritually coded, we will need a spiritual skill to unveil them. This skill I'm talking about here can come in form of utterance, it can come in form of revelation, it can come in form of divine inspiration, it can come in form of a direction. Are you there? If you are into a deliverance ministry, you can't make much impact without a spiritual skill. As a matter of fact, there is no kind of ministry that can make a significant impact without spiritual skills. There are certain spiritual cases that for you to, deliver the victim from that issue, you will need a spiritual skill. Let me give you some example. If you check through the scripture, you are going to see a lot of cases where the ministers of God they they acted with a spiritual skill, and because they used the spiritual skill, the case was solved. Let me give you an example. When Moses got to the Red Sea, initially, the right thing to think of is how do we make a bridge? But because of the grace he had, because of the spiritual skill that came to him, he got a direction. And he knew that the best thing to do, he knew what to do. He knew that what he needed to do was to stretch his rod towards the sea. That's a spiritual skill. A spiritual skill comes from God in form of an instruction. It can be in form of a revelation in order to give you a direction. That's a spiritual skill. There are certain problems that some people have, and all you would need to do is just, take for instance, if you let's pick deliverance ministry as an example. Somebody can come to you that is under a very hard demonic, you know, torment, and all you need to do is just to lay hands on the person's head and just make a decree, and that's all. But if you don't have spiritual skill, you won't know that what you need to do is to touch the person's head. You may be touching every other part, touch the hand, touch the leg, touch the stomach, and yet you won't see any need to touch the head. Meanwhile, the code, the victory code for that deliverance is on the person's head. Can you see that? So you need a spiritual skill to make a significant impact in your ministry. If you are a teacher, you also need a spiritual skill. I was in a program, and I went for a program, and it was supposed to be an evangelism kind of program. So while I was there, I raised when I was called up to minister, I raised few songs, and the next normal thing is for me to start, my message. So as I was about to start, the Lord said I should make an announcement that there are some people here, their faith needs to be strengthened, their faith is not stable, and things like that. Within me, I was wondering, Lord, is it the normal thing is that you will preach before you make any altar call? How will I be making altar call when I've not even preached? Well, since I knew that that was the word of the Lord, I made the call. And when I made the call, it was clear that God has spoken. So you need a spiritual skill. You need a spiritual skill to be able to, when you have spiritual skill, you don't sweat much. Are you there? You will not just operate by the wisdom of men, you'll be operating on the frequency of God. So spiritual skill comes in form of instructions, and they come from the Lord on certain issues. Are you there? There are certain issues that you cannot handle except you have a spiritual skills. We have had cases of some people who are facing certain, diabolical challenges, and based on spiritual skill, the instruction was just go to your house and buy gift for so person, and that's all. And when they did that, they just bought gift, and that was all. That was all. That's a spiritual. That's a spiritual skill. That's the result of a spiritual skill. Because if you don't have spiritual skills, instead of buying the gift for that person, you just go to the mountain and begin to pray, 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 pray. Meanwhile, there is something you need to know. Are you there? Through a spiritual skill that will help you to achieve that victory you are waiting for. Are you with me? Now, there was a time that the a metal fell into the water, and based on spiritual skill, instead of using a magnet, instead of getting a boat and probably calling people that can swim to start searching for the metal under the water, an instruction came by a spiritual skill, and a wood was placed in that direction, and the wood brought out the iron from the water. That's the spiritual skill. The spiritual skills come in form of an instruction. It gives you a direction so that you will not labor, you won't labor like the fools. Are you there? So every minister that will make impact, every minister that will make a mark in the kingdom must pray for a spiritual skill. There are some things that does not really involve too much prayers. That all you need to do is just action. That's all. Imagine, let me give you an instance. Somebody comes to you as a minister, somebody comes to you, and the person says, okay, my husband is this, my husband is that. So I need to settle this. There's no peace in my home and things like that. There's no peace, everything is hard. Now, the spiritual skill, if you have, can just be that, okay, go home. As soon as your husband comes, go on your knees and tell him, I'm sorry. Now, if you don't have that spiritual skill, you may just stay there and be praying and say, okay, let's do 7 days fast, let's do this. Meanwhile, if you have spiritual skills, you will have known the exact instruction to give that will bring the desired solution. Are you there? So, if you read through the Bible, there are several cases where you see spiritual skills being displayed. Several cases. So sometimes spiritual skill can lead you in the direction of fasting. You may need to fast for some days and to get a particular problem solved. Are you there? But what I'm saying is every minister that will make a mark must desire a spiritual skill. Let's